protein is showing up in everything nowadays, from cereals to yogurt to Snicker bars and other candies to Kardashian endorsed popcorn. And people are eating more protein than ever before. And these food trends are my least favorite kind of trend, you guys. The health-focused ones, promoted by ripped influencers explaining how they are hacking their bodies to be the hottest that they can possibly be and how you can do it too if you just follow their cottage cheese only meal plan. But this is not just some influencer trend, okay? This is something that is being pushed like crazy by all the biggest food producers in North America. This is not a cookie company or a style of chocolate bar. We're talking about a societal shift that's being promoted by the industrial food system to a degree that we have not seen in a very long time. And while it feels like this is just sort of propped up out of nowhere, it's been coming for quite a long time, and where it's going, we genuinely don't know at this point. So we actually wanted to make this video last year, but we didn't really feel like it had matured into the story that it is now. But we were ahead of the curve. I mean, Lou was ahead of the curve. She pitched this one, full credit. In the months since we had that original idea, the protein phenomenon has come into full effect, and it is set to be one of the most impactful shifts that our food culture has seen in a really long time. As you probably know, protein isn't like a new thing. We've known about protein for a really, really long time, but it was only really introduced as an additional nutrient to the average person's diet through fitness culture like 20 years ago, maybe, even less. I remember buying the P90X whey protein that Tony Horton promoted in the DVDs that I watched every day. And I was kind of a weirdo for doing it back then. But nowadays, the volume of protein that's being sold is staggering. More than ever, we're adding protein to our diets, and we're doing it because of the purported health benefits that it is giving us. And right off the top here, I need to say that I'm not saying that the claims about the health benefits of protein that the health industry have said are not true. Consuming protein is important for your overall health, but consuming more protein specifically as a tool to aid in muscle growth and weight loss is increasingly common. But predictably, we can't just eat protein in a normal way, right? Couldn't just consume a specific thing in moderation, could we? No. We heard protein equals gains, and now we have carnivore diets. Influencers telling you to consume an absurd amount of protein per day, and the subsequent explosion of products trying to capitalize on this growing interest in our own self-improvement. And now, even while we have health experts warning us against eating too much of this specific thing, the trend is set to only get bigger. Okay, so do you remember when everybody was going keto or when vegan diets were like the peak of health? This is just the latest version of what we've decided is going to be the healthiest thing that is going to make us look the way that we think we should look. All of these trends usually rely on very legitimate nutritional facts as a baseline for an entirely overblown dietary movement centered around one particular nutrient or the lack thereof. This is a very unique part of the story too, actually. An NPR story pointed out that protein's never been vilified by the food industry. Like fats and carbohydrates and sugars and salts and gluten have all taken their turn being the bad guy in the North American diet. But protein has somehow never been accused of anything. Now, I have to remind you that with every single one of those previous cancellations or bad guy situations, there's been reports and later studies that reveal that in many cases, we kind of got it all wrong. Fats aren't actually bad as long as you're choosing the right kind. All sugar should be consumed in moderation, and gluten is not really an issue for most people unless you are a celiac. And listen, I'm not a nutritionist or a health expert, so please go out of your way to do your own research on this stuff. We've listed all of our sources down in the description below, which is where they always are, but it just seems like the peer-reviewed studies are never as widely read as the BuzzFeed articles about the best low-carb keto snacks that you can buy for whatever number of dollars or whatever. It's sort of funny, I think you can tell how old someone is by what food they think is bad for you. Like my parents are terrified of salt. They put like very little salt on anything. Millennials are in the anti-fat era, and true gluten haters, I guess, are Gen Z. Probably. What are Gen Alpha gonna hate? Probably protein, honestly. And the weirdest thing about all these food trends is the enriched or fat, salt, sugar-free version of whatever you're buying always fucking sucks. Like I bought fat-free yogurt by accident because it was on sale, surprise, surprise. And it was like if chalk was also wet. Like it was like eating a container of drywall mud for like $7. Now in this video, I'm not going to do a bunch of taste testing of these products because that's what Drew Gooden did in his video, and it was great. You should watch that one too. We're gonna talk about why they taste terrible later, but right now I wanna break down why this sort of trend happens in this way. So the influencers behind these trends are, in most cases, not actually the pioneer of the trends that they are a part of. And we could probably do a chicken or the egg analogy here because how a trend develops like this is sort of hard to pin down. But the result is this sort of feedback loop where a diet trend gets some sort of traction in the nutritional community and then food producers pander to it, which in our hyper-consumer society is the equivalent of pouring gas onto a fire. Then the influencers start promoting this new product that becomes available, and then around and around and around we go. But somewhere in this fairground merry-go-round thing, the plot gets lost and things get hairy. Protein influencers are now telling people that they need to be getting between 150 and 200 grams of protein per day.
You're gonna need, if you're a 160-pound person, you're gonna need 160 grams of protein up to 200 grams of protein or so.
This is despite the fact that most professionals say that depending on your weight, you probably don't even need half of that. The levels of protein intake that these people are talking about is only necessary if you are like an elite level athlete. And the craziest part though is that we invented a problem that didn't even exist. We were getting enough protein before this trend even started. In fact, we were getting more protein than we even needed. But somehow we've been convinced that there is a deficiency here. And the only way for you to fix this problem is by massively scaling up the amount of protein-rich foods that you consume. So already at this point, I'm pissed. But then get this, you basically can't get the amount of protein that these influencers are talking about with normal food. So you have to supplement your diet in some way, right? Fortunately, we have more protein drinks and bars and powders than you could ever try in your entire life, and they've added protein to basically every food category that you can think of to help you fill that gap. But the reason why this food trend is so powerful for food companies is how protein works as a nutrient in our bodies. See, protein takes a lot longer for your body to break down, and this is one of the main selling features from a weight loss standpoint. You can eat a protein bar and it will make you feel fuller longer so that you don't have to eat as much later.
A Dubai chocolate protein bar, I have officially seen it all.
But this means that you can't actually just drink 5 protein shakes in a row and be good for the day. You have to eat protein at every single meal throughout the day, which, if you are a billion-dollar food company with a ton of products that you want to sell for more money by slapping the word protein across the front of it, it's perfect. You'll buy the protein pasta, the protein bread, the protein dessert, the protein powders to put in your protein, just to get the numbers that you need. But if it wasn't already a game rigged against us, think about this from a big food producer perspective. The vegan food movement was kind of a nightmare because you had to invent this whole other totally original food from scratch. Gluten-free food was nearly as bad, but the protein trend is easy. In most cases, you can just add protein dust to your already successful product, then tack on another 25% on the price tag. But it gets even better because protein powders and supplements aren't FDA regulated, so there's a lot less regulatory hurdles to get over. And this new ingredient has a great shelf life, doesn't need to be refrigerated, and it can be easily flavored to fit whatever use that you are looking to apply it to. It is so perfect that you almost wonder how it didn't happen before this. Now, without even going into a grocery store, I can tell you that the protein-enriched version of anything is going to cost you more. Just like how vegan or gluten-free was weaponized in the past, this particular word is being used to signal to shoppers that this thing is healthy or better than other things. And it's just a license to print money for these food companies. And this is probably something that you just intuitively know at this point, right? Like, we've all gotten used to this routine. But even though we know that it's a gimmick, we kind of can't help but fall for it. Like there's something in our monkey brains that just needs to synthesize all the information that we're being bombarded by all the time. And so when we hear that protein is good for us, we see influencers talking about protein all the time, and then we're overwhelmed and exhausted at the end of the day, we're standing in the aisle and we look and there's the big freaking word protein on the front of something, you buy it. But this is just the tip of the meatberg. This trend is very closely correlated to the increase in weight loss drugs like Ozempic. These protein-enriched products are promoted and sold as the perfect solution to the hunger needs of people on weight loss drugs. Now, I'm not going to get into the ethical issues surrounding Ozempic or the side effects of this kind of weight loss drug, or the fact that when you're on it, you can't really stop taking it. I mean, that could be a whole video on its own entirely. But this is a frightening component of this story. Do you remember when calories were basically the worst thing in the world and everybody just avoided calories at all costs without actually fully understanding what a calorie meant? Like it was a big deal when McDonald's put the calorie things on the side of the menu. Well, that's basically what's happening here with protein, but in the opposite way. Today, you have people who are doing this tricky balancing act to eat as little calories as possible while trying to eat as much protein as possible. And the more that these food trends evolve and the more words we try to define them, the more difficult it becomes to actually just make a decision on what you're supposed to do for dinner that night. Like technically today you can be low-fat raw paleo or a lacto-ovo vegetarian, or you can do diets like keto or Atkins or Mediterranean or vegan or plant-based or anything in between. And you could do all of those things while intermittently fasting the whole time, and you could still be quite unhealthy. Sorry, my toilet's running. 1 second. God damn it. Sorry, you know, like the flapper that goes down so that it can fill properly, sometimes it just gets hooked up on there. The protein phenomenon is one of the only food trends that specifically targets men. Don't get me wrong, there is a lot of female influencers out there talking about how much protein they're getting too, but this is maybe the most successful male-focused diet trend ever. There is a great article in Vanity Fair that blames the protein hype on the MAGA movement. I will say this is probably framed in this way to get a bunch of rage clicks, but it paints a pretty compelling picture of how we got there once you get past that. You've probably heard of the Liver King, who is like the leader of the carnivore diet trend that we've seen gaining popularity online, where people basically eat meat and that's it, sort of. And of course there's Joe Rogan and Andrew Huberman, and there are like hundreds, maybe thousands of influencers that have followed in this path, that have decided that protein specifically is the North Star of their manhood. Now, I kind of hate it when gender is used to explain everything, right? Like all women, blah, or all men, blah. But there are studies that show that men seem to want to eat foods that are perceived as manly, and protein is eaten to grow muscles. And what is more manly than muscles, am I right? I mean, look at me. And now big food companies know this, so men are becoming a target for specialized gendered products. The pink tax has been along for a really long time. Companies will make identical products, paint one pink and one blue, and then jack up the price on the pink one because it's specifically for women. Specifically. But now they know that men can be just as easily targeted. So I'm willing to say that among the trends that we've seen in the food space over the last little while, and we've covered a lot of them recently for some reason, this one is maybe going to be the most powerful and will probably last the longest for a few key reasons that we've already pointed out, but one other factor that I don't think a lot of people have recognized as much. We know that as far as food terminology goes, protein as a label, similar to gluten-free or plant-based or whatever, is going to sell because it's the last and latest dieting tool that everybody is talking about. But this trend is going to reach a lot more people because it's not as ideologically or morally driven. This isn't about saving the planet or losing weight. It is a silver bullet substance that everyone can find a use for. But another X factor in this situation that I don't think is quantifiable is that protein is largely invisible and it effects aren't really felt in the short term. Like if you're gluten intolerant and you buy something and it does have gluten in it, you're gonna know because you're gonna shit your pants. But with protein, these companies are counting on you not paying attention to any of the other crazy ingredients that they might be putting in their hyper-processed foods, since they know that you'll see protein and just assume that it's good for you. The food industry has successfully tricked us into focusing on one specific ingredient and use that to sell a bunch of overpriced stuff that in many cases won't actually improve your life at all. We're out here buying protein that's flavored like cheese when cheese already has protein in it. And this would be fine if it weren't for the fact that it's overshadowing some actual dietary needs that we should be focusing on instead. For example, health experts have been warning about a need for increased fiber since like forever apparently, but we're too busy making protein powder pancakes to care. And look, as usual, I think that we need to give ourselves a bit of slack here. You know, if you're buying protein-enriched foods right now, you're not stupid. You're just a human being bombarded with a bunch of information designed to manipulate you into buying protein-enriched foods. Okay? There is a million confusing labels in the grocery store, and our brains can only retain so much information. And these kinds of trends know that if they can just get one little word to stand out amongst the masses, then you'll probably buy it. Like I probably have protein-enriched food up there in my kitchen that I didn't even know I bought, just because it's so hard not to fall into this trap. I think we need to become a little bit more discerning about where we get our information from and just how susceptible we are to the trendification of our diets, of our food, because it's so emotional. It's so easy for us to buy into something because it feels like it's going to solve all of our problems. Weight loss is hugely emotional. It's a really difficult thing for a lot of people. Muscles, how we look generally, is a very emotional thing, and companies are going to prey on that to sell you something that costs more money and that probably doesn't actually do what it's supposed to do. Thank you so much for watching. If you like our videos and you want to see more of them, subscribe. Consider supporting us on Patreon if you have a little bit of extra cash that you want to throw around. And if you are a part of this team in this community, then we'll see you every week for another upload.